Hello and welcome to Hope for Dystonia. My name is Federico and you can call me Fede. I had a hard time speaking, chewing, and walking for a really long time because of dystonia. And I wasn't getting any real help out there at all. And I ended up developing my own method that helped me get my life back. I have now been sharing this method with others for 5 years as of the filming of this video in 2024. And I truly believe that it has grown to become the single most comprehensive, holistic, and transformative dystonia program out there. And so if you are on a healing journey, if you are looking to get your own life back, then I highly recommend that you check out the video in the description below. It is the video on the 8 steps of the Hope for Dystonia Recovery Roadmap. It is invaluable information that I wish somebody had shared with me when I was in the thick of it. So, that being said, today in this video, we have a topic that is really crucial and it's near and dear to my heart because it is so often misunderstood and overlooked, and people with dystonia don't really get the help that they need on this front. And so understanding how this all works, I think, and I hope, will be helpful and will give you hope. So we will be talking about trauma and dystonia. And before we get right into it, I have a quick disclaimer, which is that I am not a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, I'm not a doctor. I am not talking about this topic from a medical or therapeutic point of view, okay? I am a certified mindfulness meditation teacher, and I work with the inner landscape from a meditative, spiritual point of view. And so I am interested in equipping myself and others with the tools that we need in order to be with our inner landscape, bring love where it's needed, and do so from a place of presence, regulation, and compassion. So, that being said, I think we are ready for today's topic, trauma and dystonia. So, why is trauma relevant to dystonia in the first place? Well, first we have to understand that dystonia is an emergent phenomenon. What is an emergent phenomenon? It's like a storm. What causes a storm? Is it the humidity in the air? Is it the electricity in the air? Is it the wind? Is it something else? Well, the answer is none of them and all of them, of course. And the storm is what happens when these different factors come together to produce this phenomenon, right? They organize themselves as a system. And the same is true for dystonia. Dystonia is the phenomenon that we observe when different inputs that go into the nervous system come together and cause the nervous system to organize itself in a way that causes us pain and spasms and involuntary movements and dysfunction and so on. It is something that really brings together different aspects of who we are, our bodies, our minds. And trauma is one of the factors that go into this. Okay, so it's one of the inputs that cause the nervous system to learn to function in a certain way. Okay, so we need to talk about 2 types of trauma. The first type of trauma that is really relevant to dystonia is the trigger type of trauma, the straw that broke the camel's back type of trauma. And that is something that we experience usually as adults, and that really overwhelms our nervous system. And often our nervous system was already pretty challenged to begin with. So this is the type of thing that we experience when For example, we experience a divorce or a loss or a sudden move. And if we were in pretty bad shape with our nervous systems to begin with, that kind of event can put us over the edge. So if, let's say, I am really stressed out and not well equipped to deal with life, with my nervous system, if I already have some imbalances maybe in my body, in my jaw, in my upper cervical vertebrae, and so on, and yeah, I'm kind of hanging on for dear life, but I have a support system of friends and family. I have familiar surroundings that that feel soothing and reassuring. Then my brainstem back here knows how to regulate the nervous system, and it can find ways to find a sufficient sense of safety and trust and connection, and there is enough of an opportunity to stay regulated despite the challenges that come at me. If, let's say, I move and I lose this support system and I am in an environment that feels new, maybe it feels threatening, maybe I feel self-conscious around people or what have you, then that can put me over the edge, right? I don't have access to the pathways within me that allow me to stay sufficiently regulated in the face of life's challenges. And that is the kind of moment where I can all of a sudden begin discovering symptoms of dystonia. Okay, so that's type number 1 of trauma, the acute type of trauma that we experience generally as adults. Type number 2 of trauma is a bit trickier to recognize, and a lot of people don't really think that it applies to them, and little by little, the more work they do, they discover that, what, maybe I do fit the bill. And that is developmental trauma. That is the type of trauma that maybe is not just one acute event, right? Maybe it's something chronic that happened over the course of our entire childhood or adolescence. It is the type of trauma that prevented us from having the kinds of experiences that would have allowed our nervous systems to shape up in such a way that we are then able to stay regulated in the face of life's challenges. What do I mean? I mean that when we are little, our nervous systems, our brains are very plastic, and they adapt to the inputs that they receive from the environment. In particular, we are especially responsive to the inputs that we receive through our relationship with our primary caretakers. For most of us, our parents. Okay, so if our parents are able to help us experience a number of key qualities, okay, then our nervous systems shape up in such a way that these qualities are internalized. And as these qualities are internalized, we learn to feel safe, we learn to soothe ourselves, we learn to have self-esteem, we learn to have self-worth, and as adults, we are less likely to be thrown off edge by difficult experiences in life, okay? We are less likely to get sick in a number of ways, and so on and so forth. For some of us, those key qualities that we're supposed to experience through that relationship with our parents were not sufficiently available, okay? And it's not anybody's fault, okay? It's not that in most cases our parents were bad people. It's just that they themselves didn't experience these things, and they weren't able to allow us to experience them. And there are 5 key qualities that we are supposed to experience. Feeling safe and protected, number 1. Number 2 is feeling soothed when we are upset. learning to regulate and co-regulate with somebody else, feeling seen and understood, so experiencing attunement from our parents, feeling valued, like we matter, like our experience is important, and feeling encouraged is number 5, to be exactly who and what we are, right? Celebrated for who and what we are, and encouraged to be the best version of ourselves. So again, when we experience these 5 things, our nervous system grows up to be resilient. When we don't experience these 5 things sufficiently, our nervous systems become more prone to fragility and to overwhelm. And it becomes harder to stay within what is called the window of regulation, or the window of tolerance, right? So the window of regulation is that space in the nervous system that allows us to be engaged sometimes with our sympathetic nervous systems when we are, applying effort somewhere, and parasympathetic nervous system when we are resting and relaxing. So again, when we grow up with those 5 qualities, we are able to live within that window of regulation. And so we have a breathing rhythm of sympathetic and parasympathetic, of engagement and relaxation. On the other hand, when we don't experience those 5 qualities sufficiently, we end up potentially learning to live outside of our window of tolerance, right? So we are either always on, right? Always engaged, always in kind of fight or flight, always trying to prove that we are good enough, always trying to control everything, and so on and so forth, right? And we fake it, right? We pretend without meaning to, but we do what we need in order to appear to be calm and collected and regulated. But in reality, we are really tense all the time. We could also be really frozen, right? And really afraid of the world, and really depressed, and kind of scared to show up and engage. And whatever the case may be, we are outside of that window of regulation. So when that becomes a chronic state, it becomes, the way we live, right? It's the only way we know to exist. And then when, say, there is an imbalance in the body, say with our jaw or with our upper cervical vertebrae, or we have an injury, or there is some other kind of shock or toxicity that we're exposed to, or what have you, our nervous systems are not well equipped to maintain regulation and symmetry and good muscle tone and so on. And we are more prone to developing dystonia. So, all right, these are the 2 types of trauma that are particularly relevant to dystonia. What can we do about it? Well, again, I am not talking here about psychotherapy. I'm not talking about things that can be done to you as therapies. I'm talking about how I work with myself, with my clients, from a perspective of empowerment of the individual, right? Recognizing that through meditation and through self-compassion and through a number of specific spiritual practices that connect us with love, right? And that help us bring love where it's needed, we can learn new patterns, right? We can learn to feel safety and really realize what that feels like in the body, even when we didn't necessarily have this kind of experience very often growing up, right? When we don't have a memory of being attuned to, right? Of having parents that are interested in what we think and what we're experiencing, and, that are genuinely interested in getting to know us, we can engage in relational practices. We can learn to attune to ourselves. We can do a number of things that allow us to build in ourselves the pathways of attunement and being seen and appreciated and so on. So in other videos, you may have heard me talk about how we can learn patterns in the body, right? If we have forgotten how to use a certain side of the neck, we can learn to feel it, we can learn to engage it, we can learn to use it, we can learn to find symmetry, and little by little make it the default, right? The same principle of adaptive neuroplasticity, of adaptive learning, applies to the inner world, right? And so, as you can see, with dystonia, we're really looking at a whole person journey of healing. And no matter where the challenge is, no matter what the different inputs are that kind of led the nervous system to learn what it did, our nervous system retains the ability to learn. It retains its plasticity even into adulthood. And we can learn to get better. So I hope this video is helpful. I hope it encourages you to recognize that you can get better, right? That no matter, again, how far gone you think you are, you can unlearn dysfunctional patterns and learn new ones. So if you feel called to start a journey of healing and self-knowledge and transformation, I warmly invite you to check out the link in the description below. Again, it is invaluable information, the 8 steps of the Hope for Dystonia Recovery Roadmap. I hope to see you on hopefordystonia.com, and until then, much love to you. Bye.